Me mute myself. Okay, so let me see. Make sure we're live on YouTube. This let me mute this. Um, all right. So give me a few seconds so we can officially do my brief intro. And you know what? I think I am gonna play that video. So let's actually play this video before I do my intro.
For Hype Plus News, I'm Nichelle Woods. Black people in America have long worked to lessen the gap between whites when it comes to building wealth. Slavery, redlining, and even the family dynamic within the home have all played a role in making the task more difficult to complete. Government assistance was created in the 1930s to solve a temporary issue. However, society showed that these benefits could be necessary long term. As time has gone on, government assistance became a mainstay in many Black households to help make ends meet. With many of the Black homes receiving government assistance being headed by single Black women, questions come into play about just how beneficial this would be for Black people. There's no denying that Black people live in poverty at higher rates than whites, and that government assistance does help with food, rent, and other necessities each month. On the other side of the spectrum lies the issue of broken homes and the poverty that comes from receiving government assistance, ironically enough. Considering both sides, the million-dollar question becomes, did government assistance ruin the Black family? Like many things, government assistance was given sparingly, if at all, to Black families in the early 1900s. In 1935, following the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt established the Social Security Act of 1935 with intentions of assisting the elderly, dependent children, and those who had lost their jobs as a result of the Depression. Despite the fact that Black families were clearly more impoverished overall, the assistance given out overwhelmingly went to white families. Information taken from the Child Support Hustle revealed that, with the New Deal, state legislators began to pass bills that supported single mothers called Mother's Pension. Since the states operated these programs, administrators were not regulated by federal government. The lack of governing of the Mother's Pension program meant that states could deny services and money to qualifying Black mothers. This aspect of the law caused great issues as it would set the precedent for caseworkers and states to set forth even more provisions in order to keep Black families from receiving government assistance or giving up something of equal value in order to receive such help. While the practice was illegal with no penalty for continuing it, the tactic became more common, allowing caseworkers to essentially control people's lives. Rules regarding a suitable home were enacted without giving Black people a clear idea of what that would entail. In the South specifically, Blacks saw great pushback when it came to receiving government assistance, with states posing stipulations that discouraged a complete Black family. Alabama is one state that stands out, as the state independently submitted a plan in 1964 about a substitute parent rule that would effectively harm Black families specifically. Aspects of the proposal stated that a child would have a substitute father, hereby disqualifying their home from receiving government assistance if a substitute father lives in the home with the child's mother for the purpose of cohabitation, if he frequently visits to cohabitate with the mother, or if he does not frequent the home but cohabitates with the child's natural or adoptive mother elsewhere. These facts are telling as they show a direct attack on the Black man by giving an ultimatum of them being in the home, even for a short period of time versus receiving help. With the Black marriage rate lowering from the 1960s on, cohabitating was common throughout the country. While again, there could seem to be benefits in this way, statistics have proven that the creation of these single-parent homes through the type of legislation has a lasting impact. These new laws, beginning in 1964 from Alabama and other states, paralleled the passing of the Great Society laws passed in the same year that saw government assistance change, possibly for the worse. The Institute of Family Studies sheds light on this fact, stating, "It was estimated that in 1975, a household head would have to earn $20,000 a year to have more resources than what could be obtained from Great Society programs. In today's dollars, that's over $90,000 per year in earnings. That may be a reason why in 1964, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock compared to 40% today. One can see through this tactic that the government purposefully incentivized these women to have more children out of wedlock, as the type of money being offered, even in more modern times, is hard to come by as a salary for anyone, much less a black man or a woman. In the early to mid 1990s, Black households saw a peak when it came to fatherless homes, as nearly 70% of Black families saw this as their reality. This number had remained relatively unmoved for decades before dropping back down, and there are still government programs and benefits that people know they could be in danger of losing due to other people. There have even been several Black women refusing to get married in fear of losing their benefits, as they will receive more money personally from the government than they could from a job by not having the man present. On the other side of the spectrum, however, statistically, these homes still end up with children living in poverty, as marriage, according to the IFS studies over time, will position these families to have more money and be able to survive long term, as the two incomes, even with the women's lowering, over time would position these families to maintain. These women choosing not to marry was not a simple choice, but more so a government tactic forcing them to choose between money and family. Another major change that may or may not have played a role in damaging the Black family was the transparency needed from government assistance recipients as time went on. Welfare and other assistance would be given to those that showed need, giving the government access to bank account information and essentially one's entire life to determine eligibility. For the Black family, this would lead to a surge in improper spending and the trading of benefits for another. Selling of one's food stamps became popular in the 1980s and beyond, whether it be for cash or another benefit. With some families already receiving cash assistance on top of other benefits, the existence of these programs led some to try and find new ways to qualify in order to receive more money. While it is much more difficult today to have one government assistance program provide more money than one can make in a year, it is still very possible to combine programs to be able to provide everything a person would need. Possibly the biggest factor to consider when it comes to government assistance is how it spiked the rate of child support cases in the Black family. Once many of these women had gotten the man out of the house to receive their benefits, they realized quickly that this money, depending on how many children are present, would not be enough to sustain a home. Lawyers in the 1990s would even work pro bono on a case dealing with child support, giving these women more confidence in taking the father of their children to court and receiving more money. Courts notoriously gave men payments to make that were outlandish, with penalties that would make it impossible for them to get the money needed. This action, unsurprisingly, would lead to an uptick in crimes committed by many Black men of the time. In a published paper by Harvard alum Fritz Foley, one can see the correlation between crime and welfare payments as the text reads. Analysis of daily reported incidents of major crimes in 12 U.S. cities reveals an increase in crime over the course of monthly welfare payment cycles. The jump reflects increases in crime that are likely to have a direct financial motivation, like burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and robbery. Taking into account the countless issues that come from having a record when it comes to making money, on top of systemic racism, especially in years past, one can see clearly how this assistance ruined the lives of many Black fathers and children at the very least, as their fathers would spend years in jail, and with the overwhelmingness of being a single parent, the children suffer as well in ways unimaginable. There can be debate about the reasoning behind certain decisions Black families made. However, the need for more assistance is clear. Families selling stamps for cash, fathers being kicked out of the homes, and caseworkers who acted as an extension of the government while breaking the law all played a role on how government assistance would affect Black people. The need for assistance is obvious, especially in the present as a recession looms over society. Nevertheless, it is clear that there are major issues with government assistance that have plagued Black families for decades. If assistance is given to elevate a person in order to help them become more independent, one should ask themselves if this seems like the case when it comes to Black people. With a history of struggle and suffering despite this help, it may not be a foregone conclusion that assistance ruined the Black family, but many can argue it did little to help as Black families today see nearly half of their homes without a father and are still financially trying to catch up in society. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy, music.
You know, let's not do that. Um, Let me go back. Okay, I'm speaking now. I'm speaking for the purposes of the playback because I need to mute my. Okay, I'm back. Okay, cool. Okay, so I said that to say, since we were watching the video together, did y'all hear the video? Or I gotta put the video over again? Let me know if I need to play the video over again. I guess I can check that myself. Hold on. Let me see if the video was playing back. Hold on. Okay. 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 we gonna play. Okay, play the video again. I already said play the video again. Okay, so I'll play the video again. But before I play the video again, we can play it again. I have no problem with that. Yeah, the YouTube is tripping. So before we play the video again, right? I want y'all to take a look at the graph, right? Not the graph, but the data sheet. So in the video I played, she referenced that the poverty rate in the Black community was 70%. I'm not sure when she got that, what time period statistic she got that from, but in 1968, and again, you know, things change. It could have been way higher in 64. But I wanted to show this because 68 is the year that the man out of the house rule through King v. Smith was dismantled off the books, right? We know corruption happens, but this says poverty was in the Black community 34.7% in 1968. So let me go ahead and mute myself on here because y'all know we're getting it together. I'm going to mute myself on here. We're going to watch the video over again. Let me go back and then I'm going to show you another video after that. So let's keep that in mind, right? I need y'all to take y'all pens and papers out. And if anything sticks out to y'all, put a pen in, you know, let's discuss it. So let me go ahead and share this and I'm going to let TikTok go. But yes, let me mute myself.
For Hype Plus News, I'm Nichelle Woods. Black people in America have long worked to lessen the gap between whites when it comes to building wealth. Slavery, redlining, and even the family dynamic within the home have all played a role in making the task more difficult to complete. Government assistance was created in the 1930s to solve a temporary issue. However, society showed that these benefits could be necessary long term. As time has gone on, government assistance became a mainstay in many Black households to help make ends meet. With many of the Black homes receiving government assistance being headed by single Black women, questions come into play about just how beneficial this would be for Black people. There's no denying that Black people live in poverty at higher rates than whites, and that government assistance does help with food, rent, and other necessities each month. On the other side of the spectrum lies the issue of broken homes and the poverty that comes from receiving government assistance, ironically enough. Considering both sides, the million-dollar question becomes, did government assistance ruin the Black family? Like many things, government assistance was given sparingly, if at all, to Black families in the early 1900s. In 1935, following the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt established the Social Security Act of 1935 with intentions of assisting the elderly, dependent children, and those who had lost their jobs as a result of the Depression. Despite the fact that Black families were clearly more impoverished overall, the assistance given out overwhelmingly went to white families. Information taken from the Child Support Hustle revealed that, with the New Deal deal, state legislators began to pass bills that supported single mothers called mother's pension. Since the states operated these programs, administrators were not regulated by federal government. The lack of governing of the mother's pension program meant that states could deny services and money to qualifying Black mothers. This aspect of the law caused great issues as it would set the precedent for caseworkers in states to set forth even more provisions in order to keep Black families from receiving government assistance or giving up something of equal value in order to receive such help. While the practice was illegal with no penalty for continuing it, the tactic became more common, allowing caseworkers to essentially control people's lives. Rules regarding a suitable home were enacted without giving Black people a clear idea of what that would entail. In the South specifically, Blacks saw great pushback when it came to receiving government assistance, with states posing stipulations that discouraged a complete Black family. Alabama is one state that stands out, as the state independently submitted a plan in 1964 about a substitute parent rule that would effectively harm Black families specifically. Aspects of the proposal stated that a child would have a substitute father, hereby disqualifying their home from receiving government assistance if a substitute father lives in the home with the child's mother for the purpose of cohabitation, if he frequently visits to cohabitate with the mother, or if he does not frequent the home but cohabitates with the child's natural or adoptive mother elsewhere. These facts are telling, as they show a direct attack on the Black man by giving an ultimatum of them being in the home, even for a short period of time versus receiving help. With the Black marriage rate lowering from the 1960s on, cohabitating was common throughout the country. While again, there could seem to be benefits in this way, statistics have proven that the creation of these single-parent homes through the type of legislation has a lasting impact. These new laws, beginning in 1964 from Alabama and other states, paralleled the passing of the Great Society laws passed in the same year that saw government assistance change, possibly for the worse. The Institute of Family Studies sheds light on this fact, stating, "It was estimated that in 1975, a household head would have to earn $20,000 a year to have more resources than what could be obtained from Great Society programs. In today's dollars, that's over $90,000 per year in earnings. That may be a reason why in 1964, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock compared to 40% today." One can see through this tactic that the government purposefully incentivized these women to have more children out of wedlock, as the type of money being offered, even in more modern times, is hard to come by as a salary for anyone, much less a Black man or a woman. In the early to mid-1990s, Black households saw a peak when it came to fatherless homes, as nearly 70% of Black families saw this as their reality. This number had remained relatively unmoved for decades before dropping back down, and there are still government programs and benefits that people know they could be in danger of losing due to other people. There have even been several Black women refusing to get married in fear of losing their benefits, as they will receive more money personally from the government than they could from a job by not having the man present. On the other side of the spectrum, however, statistically, these homes still end up with children living in poverty, as marriage, according to the IFS studies over time, will position these families to have more money and be able to survive long-term, as the two incomes, even with the women's lowering, over time would position these families to maintain. These women choosing not to marry was not a simple choice, but more so a government tactic forcing them to choose between money and family. Another major change that may or may not have played a role in damaging the Black family was the transparency needed from government assistance recipients as time went on. Welfare and other assistance would be given to those that showed need, giving the government access to bank account information and essentially one's entire life to determine eligibility. For the Black family, this would lead to a surge in improper spending and the trading of benefits for another. Selling of one's food stamps became popular in the 1980s and beyond, whether it be for cash or another benefit. With some families already receiving cash assistance on top of other benefits, the existence of these programs led some to try and find new ways to qualify in order to receive more money. While it is much more difficult today to have one government assistance program provide more money than one can make in a year, it is still very possible to combine programs to be able to provide everything a person would need. Possibly the biggest factor to consider when it comes to government government assistance is how it spiked the rate of child support cases in the Black family. Once many of these women had gotten the man out of the house to receive their benefits, they realized quickly that this money, depending on how many children are present, would not be enough to sustain a home. Lawyers in the 1990s would even work pro bono on a case dealing with child support, giving these women more confidence in taking the father of their children to court and receiving more money. Courts notoriously gave men payments to make that were outlandish, with penalties that would make it impossible for them to get the money needed. This action, unsurprisingly, would lead to an uptick in crimes committed by many Black men of the time. In a published paper by Harvard alum Fritz Foley, one can see the correlation between crime and welfare payments as the text reads. Analysis of daily reported incidents of major crimes in 12 U.S. cities reveals an increase in crime over the course of monthly welfare payment cycles. The jump reflects increases in crime that are likely to have a direct financial motivation, like burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and robbery. Taking into account the countless issues that come from having a record when it comes to making money, on top of systemic racism, especially in years past, one can see clearly how this assistance ruined the lives of many Black fathers and children at the very least, as their fathers would spend years in jail, and with the overwhelmingness of being a single parent, the children suffer as well in ways unimaginable. There can be debate about the reasoning behind certain decisions Black families made. However, the need for more assistance is clear. Families selling stamps for cash, fathers being kicked out of the homes, and caseworkers who acted as an extension of the government while breaking the law all played a role on how government assistance would affect Black people. The need for assistance is obvious, especially in the present as a recession looms over society. Nevertheless, it is clear that there are major issues with government assistance that have plagued Black families for decades. If assistance is given to elevate a person in order to help them become more independent, one should ask themselves if this seems like the case when it comes to Black people. With a history of struggle and suffering despite this help, it may not be a foregone conclusion that assistance ruined the Black family, but many can argue it did little to help, as Black families today see nearly half of their homes without a father and are still financially trying to catch up in society. Stay up to date with the latest news in comedy, music, and sports by subscribing here to our YouTube channel. Follow Hype Plus across all social media and look out for original content on our new streaming service. For Hype Plus, I'm Nichelle Woods.
Now, y'all just heard that, right? Now, before I get back into it, because I want to go back to this graph. Um, Ari, I can't hear you because you muted. Let me unmute you off my computer. Hey, girl. All right. So I want to go back to this graph because now what am I doing, child? Y'all know I need to get my life together. Let's do a new share. So I wanted to share this graph, right? And I did mishear her. She did say 70% of Black children are growing up in fatherless homes. That's not funny at all, but sometimes I have to laugh to keep from crying. So I showed this graph to just illustrate, right? When we're talking about welfare recipients, we're talking about people that are in extreme poverty, right? And so I referenced in 68, the poverty rate being 34.7%. Everybody that lives in poverty does not receive or qualify for government assistance, then or now. So my question I pose to y'all, because we're all here because we hear the whole welfare took Black men out of the home, which we can go over the Fleming ruling later, right? Because that was from the 40s and 50s. But when they say welfare took Black men out of the home, they're referencing the man out of the home rule, right? And we'll go over that in the encyclopedia definition of that. So my question that I came up with when I saw this was, if in 1968, the poverty rate of the Black community was only 30, well, not only, that's minimizing it, but was 34.7%, how would welfare have kicked enough Black men out of the home of that 34% for it to destabilize the Black community and the Black family. Now I'm going to dismantle through the actual court case and telling y'all what the actual law was, how it went into effect, and all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that tea. But that tea only really applies to less than 30% in 1968 of the Black community. I'm gonna need some help with that because something in the buttermilk is not clean, and I'm confused. Maybe Ari, you have some input, or if you want to comment on the video that we watched. What you got? Because
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What pissed me off about that video is the fact that we know, because we can pull up the stats, that white people, as she said out of her mouth, benefit more from these government assistance programs, right? So I'm confused to why we're just focusing on the Black community, because not very many of the Black people that are on assistance are the ones that are committing welfare fraud. Like she kind of made it seem about, oh, they sell their food stamps. So every time I pull up a list to see who's doing what, it's nothing but white faces.
Not me being muted, Ari. You didn't even tell me.
I did. I said it in the Zoom chat.
Oh, I didn't even see. Listen, let me open the chat up, girl. See, y'all could get it together. What day?
I was like, maybe it's my AirPod. And then I took it out, put it back in, and I was like, nope. I turned it up on my end at the YouTube. I was like, nope, nobody is hearing her.
Okay, so what I was saying was I was going over the research portion and preparing my notes and whatever for today on TikTok, like I do on Saturdays when I do my content planning days. So I was speaking with the professor. We were talking about welfare and, how the inequities of white people getting welfare, but they're not really people impoverished, because you can see here back then, white people were really impoverished like that. So we were looking at, and I'm not going to bore y'all with going through the entire case and boring y'all with case law, procedural history, and all that kind of stuff about all these things about welfare and over the decades since the act. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bore y'all like that. But we were getting into the portion of the Fleming ruling. So we were having a conversation of basically like, where is this money going, right? Because these states were implementing these rules to basically lessen the people that will receive the federal funding that the federal government was giving the state to give to the needy people. So they were making it more restrictive or lessening the amount of people that were receiving the aid, but they were still receiving the same amount of aid. Where was the money going?
Correct.
So who is really committing the welfare fraud?
Somebody's governor, somebody's congressman, somebody, because
So
the
that was
Black community wasn't getting it.
It was a little shady. So, I mean, we could have a holistic conversation about what the real issues are, but we know these Black men don't give a fuck. They do not care. They do not care. And you can tell they don't care because the case we're going to go over and these rules that were implemented that the Supreme Court had to say, y'all can't do that shit. At the basis of all of these issues is care for the child.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how care for the child and maintaining aid for children became a shaming tactic of Black men for Black women, because we were also talking about that, and I think you were there for that. We were also saying that if you don't receive welfare, if you don't qualify for welfare.
Correct.
And if you qualify for welfare and you have a man there, what does that tell you? I'm trying to take my context clues and make it make sense.
I don't know. Maybe that man also doesn't have money. So if we're getting it and it's based upon income and I qualify because I'm at the income requirement, then yeah. Another thing that stood out to me. Another thing that stood out to me.
Funny.
Right. Another thing that I didn't care for is the fact that she tried to correlate crime with Black women being on welfare. And I'm like, in order for the man to pay child support, he has to have taxable income. So him going and sticking up people is not taxable income.
Also brought that up. And I'm like, if you listen to the video, it was one point after another of Black men's decisions being blamed upon the system and Black women. This whole video could have just been breaking down that video, but we're not that. We're going to watch another video, and this is elders, right? Because one of my other gripes with this whole welfare took Black men out of the home is like, nobody saying that today was born back then.
No.
Like, I'm trying to figure out how men born in 1990 is hollering about welfare took their daddy out the home. Which again, you don't get welfare if you don't qualify for welfare.
No, absolutely.
And we just saw the stats that back in 68, it was 34.7% of people and Black people living in poverty. So my other question is, why are we using this portion of the community, right? And I also question, like, okay, so if it was around 35%, where is the rest of the community to reach back and make sure that these mothers that were raising these children without fathers in the home, because that's their big thing too, where were they at?
Like, I'm spending their money on something that had nothing to do with feeding somebody else's baby.
Let me go ahead and let's play this video. I'm gonna put myself on mute because y'all know the technology over here at this house. Oh my gosh. So I won't be able to hear you, Ari. I just want to let you know that. But I'll be in the chat though.
Okay, I will too.
My relationship with Pruitt-Igoe was that of a research assistant. I went to Washington University to graduate school in 1964. I was working on a National Institute of Mental Health funded study on social problems in public housing. My role was to study women and girls in Pruitt-Igoe. I was 20 years old. I'd just gotten out of college. Some of the girls were 18 years old, and I was 2 years older, but yet my life was vastly different. As time passed, I did wonder, would my life have been similar to that of the girls had my parents migrated from Mississippi to St. Louis? Would my opportunities have been different? I guess to put it bluntly, I never saw the people in Pruitt-Igoe as that different from the lives of poor people I had grown up with in Mississippi, except for one thing: the strong, tightly knit communities and families in which I grew up had begun to shatter around the people who were displaced in a northern city with few supports. And the policy and the housing authority was to move the poorest of the poor, the most dependent families, to Pruitt-Igoe.
Before we moved into Pruitt-Igoe, the welfare department came to our home. They talked with my mother about moving into the housing project, but the stipulation was that my father could not be with us. They would put us into the housing project only if he left the state. My mother and father discussed it, and they decided that it was best for the 12 children for the father to leave the home. And that's how we got into the projects.
The welfare department had a rule that no able-bodied man could be in the house if a woman received aid for dependent children. If a man lost his job, he's looking for work, he still had to leave the home. And there was even a night staff of men who worked for the welfare department whose job was to go to the homes of the welfare recipients, and they searched to find if there was a man in the home. Sometimes men came back at night to be with their families. Some were found in the closet hiding.
I remember vividly my mother telling us, if white people come to the house and ask you guys questions, tell them that your father is not here. Tell them that your father has never been here. You have not seen your father. I trusted her. I knew that there was a reason that we had to do this charade, and I participated in the charade. I sat there and looked those people in the eye and told them with pure earnestness that no, I have not seen my father, and no, my daddy does not live here. And but I knew that I was lying, and that made me wonder, who are these people and how do they have the power to make my mother lie?
We're giving you money. We want to be able to control you. We're giving you money, so we have the right to make stipulations as to how you use it and what you use it for. There were so many restrictions. We couldn't have a telephone. We couldn't have a television. And we were really left at the mercy of the system.
In the project, it seemed to be strategically planned to create an environment that people felt isolated, that people felt restricted, that people felt, inhuman almost. You're bad, we have to restrain you, we have to curtail what you're doing. It was void of humanity. It was void of caring. It seemed more like a prison environment that you have to escape from.
They were treated in some ways like they were prisoners. If we are going to support you and to give you a few measly dollars to live on, then we're going to extract blood from you. You're going to live according to the rules we set. And the rules just happen to be very punitive. There was this whole undertone of morality, that they had poor morality, that they were immoral by virtue of the lifestyles they led. Poverty never created immorality. Poverty created want.
When we first moved in the projects, we couldn't have a television.
Here it is.
And then my mother got a letter that we could have TV.
Barbie's dream house is a wish come true for both of you. And look.
I was always interested in the family programs. Programs with fathers. My Little Margie, where the father was so involved with his daughter.
Margie!
Come on in, Dad.
Margie, you know I've always tried to be both mother and father to you.
You've been wonderful, Dad.
Do you remember that little game we always play when you have a problem that you can't tell your father?
But I haven't got any problems.
Now come, tell me what's wrong.
When I looked at those sitcoms, I just felt like this is the way white people lived. Because black people, from my experience, did not live that way. And I never questioned, I never wondered why. I just figured this is how it is.
We have our home here, and if the colored move in and run real estate values down, it's bound to create tension. And you will have, well, I think their aim is mixed marriages and becoming equal with the whites.
Well, I just could not live beside them. I don't feel that they should be oppressed. But I moved here. One of the main reasons was because it was a white community. And that's the only place I intend to live.
Ari, I'll let you have the first comment while I pull up some other stuff, because we're finna get into some factualities and such. What you got? Because I know your neurons is firing.
I am just so confused by how we are always painted as like we're not human. That, oh, we had to have all of these, assistant programs in order for us to survive, when we know that there are Black families that were surviving in their homes, that they were not struggling as they make it out, that every Black family was going through the same thing. Because just listen to that woman that said, oh, I thought this is how white people live. And in my opinion, Black people didn't live like that. When there were Black little girls that had their fathers at home, that were doing the same things as, the white fathers, in her opinion, were doing. It's weird to me how they they were creeping and crawling during the night to try to make sure that Black men were not in the house. But by white people being the majority and they benefited the most from these systems, were you doing the same thing to the white families? Were you going into the homes and telling them that they can't have TVs, telling them that they can't have telephones, telling them that their white fathers couldn't be in the home? I doubt it very seriously.
Well, one of the things that this did bring up for me, right? And to touch on that, like, I think when it comes to like certain, because in that time period, like TV was kind of like new. So I think for me, I kind of make it sense. Like if you are, say, on Section 8 housing, or you receive, was that Section 8? Yeah, they give you the money for rent and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm giving you money for rent and stuff, why do you have a PS5?
Yeah.
So in that regard, okay, I can see that. Now, with them bullying or making it seem as if it was the law for the man not to be there, my mind goes to, I think they were trying to de-incentivize these Black people from taking these assistance. I think they thought going into it if I offer you a project apartment and tell you for this project apartment, you'll have to get rid of your able-bodied man that's working. To me, in my mind, it's like, why would you take that over this man that's supposed to be providing for you? And then I think they started to realize that that tactic wasn't going to work because it wasn't out for the Black father to just be about. Because again,
that's what I think too.
This wasn't middle or even lower middle class Black people. This was people that were qualifying for government assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I'm going to ask, because I'll pull the shit up again, because we're going to make this make the fuck sense. Okay? I don't care how many times I got to reference this graph. I need someone to make it make sense. In 68, 34.7% of the Black community was living in poverty. Not everybody living in poverty qualifies or receives government assistance.
Correct.
But if 100% of this 34.7% receive government assistance, what happened to the other 65.3% of Black people? Why are we taking one group of people and making it the entirety of the community? And then doing that, using it as a shaming tactic to shame Black women for taking care of their damn kids.
I don't get it. Well, I'll take it like this. We have to remember that the people that come up with all of these, graphs and charts happen to be palm colored. And the reason why they do that is to paint a picture that, white people were able to pull themselves up, even though, 10% of them were, living under the threshold, but they were able to pull themselves up. They were able to do it.
Even if because like for me, there is a whole, right? There's a whole 1, 2, 3 paragraphs before I get to the data on the information sheet, right?
Right.
Even if, because I mean, we're academics. This may just be the sociologist in me and mixed with the Black woman in me. I don't have to take the purpose of you. I don't have to take the purpose of why you created this graph, right? Because for this specifically, this came from the census. It came from tax documents. So this is attached to your social security number at this point, right?
Right.
Because with the Social Security Act, they had to have some way to track us, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want the raw numbers. Give me the numbers. I don't care why you did it. I don't care how you did it. I mean, I care how you did it because it has to be ethical.
Right.
But for things that are just raw data, it's like they have a purpose, but at the end of the day, the number is the number. Like the poverty rate in 68 is the poverty rate. So
I think I know why they do it. Because remember, it's always that we are the smallest number, but have the biggest problem, right?
Right.
Oh, they're only 13% of the population, but they commit 50% of the crime. And then we know that that's not true, because pretty much what you're saying is practically all Black people commit crime, no matter what their age and status is. So
I think that's more indicative of people relaying the statistics and not knowing how to interpret them correctly. Because it doesn't say that the statistics do not show that Black people commit 50% of the crimes. The actual statistic is all peoples commit crime at the same rate.
Period.
But Black people being 13% of the population, when you look at the breakdown of demographics of arrests, of those arrests, they account for more than 50% of arrests. It's not even convictions. It's not even who actually commits crimes. It's arrests. And they're not even conveying that statistic correctly when they have conversation. And that's why I'm here today, because they be saying shit incorrectly, thinking that they fucking ate and they now fucking nourished. We to jump into it because with those two videos, it's like y'all are mixing different issues together.
Yes.
I noticed you're mixing this man in the house rule. You're mixing it up with the Fleming ruling and what was happening before them with suitable homes and morality clauses and these legislation about who gets what. Y'all are mixing all these things together. Y'all are conflating that to mean this is where the absentee father rate came from, which is like, you cannot talk about the absentee father rate and link it to fucking welfare. And that's it. And that's where the buck stops. No. And they're mixing
because we know that's not true.
The 90s and child support. And I'm just like, what is this mixed bag of fucking confusion? And how the fuck can we clear it the fuck up and clear it the fuck up fast? Because what the fuck? What in the hot mess? So let's go. I pulled out the encyclopedia on your ass. I really did. So let's go. Encyclopedia. Okay, what is the man in the house rule? What is it? In summation, it says, under the man in the house rule, a child who otherwise qualified for welfare benefits was denied those benefits if the child's mother was living with or having relations with any single or married able-bodied male. The man was considered a substitute father, even if the man was not supporting the child. And we're gonna dive deeper into that with the case law. But in a nutshell, when y'all hear these nignogs talking about the man out of the house rule, which is man in the house rule, saying that this was the catalyst of them being out of the home, no, it wasn't. And I'm gonna show y'all why it wasn't. Because I'm confused as to why y'all. Well, I'm not confused as to why y'all are confused. I'll.
Yeah. Like I said in your live on Saturday, when you don't read and you don't have critical thinking skills, this is what happens. When you want to talk more than listen, this is what happens. You say out instead of in.
Hold on. Let me get my PDF ready. But it's just like, if we're not going to think critically and we're not going to have real life conversations that are based in fucking reality, why do we continue to be here? And now I can tell you it's mostly a nignog problem, but Black women have been perpetuating this lie since the lie happened. At what point in time are we going to actually be fucking for real? And actually be accurate in the things that we discuss when it comes to the facts, and stop trying to coddle and hold a grown man's nuts for him. There's some good ass water. I'll put
my water is good too.
If y'all care, I've been on Water Talk. I made me some nice infused water with some lemons, limes, ginger, cucumber, pomegranate, and strawberry. I was gonna say something real inappropriate. Let me not say something inappropriate. We're trying to be serious today.
Yes.
Let me root it down because I need some more water in here. But any more thoughts about the preliminary stuff I put up before we get into the case law? And actually look at what
to get into the law.
Let's get into the law, honey.
Let's get into it.
On my off day.
Right.
Let's get into the law.
Go ahead and clock in.
Okay, let me clock in right quick. Let me make sure. Look, again, I'll tell y'all again. I come with highlights. If that distracts y'all, I'm sorry. If y'all want to follow along at home with a clean copy, there is a copy in the description box. All right, y'all. Y'all know when I read out loud, I can't look at my face. It gives me the ick, honey. It gives me I don't know why.
You just find any kind of way to get your face
Off camera.
Off camera.
Okay. So for y'all following along at home, we're looking at the United States Supreme Court decision of King v. Smith of 1968. Here's where you can find it, the date it was argued and the day it was decided. Okay? So there's no confusion. So I wanted to divide this into like two different parts. I want to explain to you kind of what the law said, kind of how the states were operating, and then we're going to get into the facts of the case, because the facts of the case, honey, wow. Woo, the tea. But I want to get through the law because this is where the biggest arguments come from these nignogs that use this incorrectly, right? Nothing about any of this, even when we get to the Fleming ruling about having, suitable homes for children, nothing about this, and I do agree, like I said yesterday on TikTok, and we did see briefly in these videos, there was corruption, okay? I'm not gonna ever deny government corruption. That will be stupid. Stupid.
Right.
Stupid as hell, and I'm not on the side of stupid. So let's go through the brief law and the facts of this all, okay? Let me just go ahead and read it to y'all so that we're all on the same page. If y'all need explanation or something, let me know. We can get it there, right? Okay. So the AFDC program is one of the three major categorical public assistance programs established by the Social Security Act of 1935. Okay. So the portion of why we're here today, the category singled out for the welfare assistance by AFDC is the dependent child. I skipped 2 lines, keep up with me. So they defined in the act who was a dependent child, right? So as an age-qualified needy child who has been deprived of parental support or care by reason of death, continued absence from the home, or physical or mental incapacity of a parent, and who is living with any one of several listed relatives. Okay, what does this mean? We're going to start to paint a picture, right? So under this portion of welfare, this money was allocated to children. Now, they don't say a gendered parent, right? They say a parent. So it could be a mother or a father.
Correct.
Basically, one of the parents has to be gone, either by death or they left, or incapable of making money. They may have a physical disability, say they got injured on the job, they have, they can't work anymore due to that, or they have some mental problems that prevent them from having employment. So, and then the child has to be living with like another family member, like a mother, a cousin, an aunt, whoever, a grandparent, like that. Under this provision, and insofar as relevant here, aid can be granted only if a parent of a needy child is continually absent from the home. So this can't be your daddy left for 3 months and came back and now he back. No, your daddy is gone. Death, obviously, that explains itself, but incapacity could be if they're in a mental institution and that's reviewed frequently. They in there, they staying in there, or you're permanently disabled. So here's where we get into where the state's issue comes in. And I forgot to mention, for y'all that don't know or who comes across this video and replay and doesn't understand, when the Supreme Court takes the case, they usually take cases where there is a fight amongst the state and their own state laws. So there's a federal law, federal government, but each state has their own government and their own sets of laws, right? So when it comes to certain things, usually how things they give the Supreme Court is one state implements this, other states follow behind. Certain states are like, no, that's not right. And so to settle it once and for all, the Supreme Court chooses cases and they make their ruling. How they do that is they take one state's case, and they allow that case to go up, but that case kind of usually represents the broad array of case law. So think about it like this, y'all. We see all the anti-trans bills and legislation that are being passed or up for being passed or on the floors of the state's respective Congresses. We see that happening. Eventually, when it comes to an issue, what's going to eventually happen is there's going to be so many states that have these anti-trans bills and so many states that are opposing them. There's going to basically be a battle amongst the states in order to say whether or not a state can or cannot implement these rules. The Supreme Court will take the case and decide. So the reason why you pick one state, it makes shit easier. So we pick one state, it may be the worst state out there, and we're going to tell them they can't do that, and all the other states are going to fall behind them. We're going to get to it a little bit later when we get into the actual facts of the case here. But in Alabama, this case came up on review in the state courts, through the federal district courts, and to the Supreme Court by a class action lawsuit brought by the parents of these children that were dropped from getting their welfare benefits through the substitute father rule, The reason why it is one person is because when there's a class action, there's too many people to have them all come to court and share their story. So the group of people elect one person for them to be basically the representative. So I hope that clears everything up for some people that may be confused as to why it's a Supreme Court case, but we're only talking about one family and one state when it was, I believe, 13 to 15 states that had these laws on the books. So here is what Alabama did and how we got to where we got and all that. So Alabama considers a man who was qualified as a substitute father under its regulation to be a non-absent parent within the federal statute. The state therefore denies aid to the otherwise eligible needy child on the basis that his substitute parent is not absent from the home. Now we got to get into what are they talking about? What is a substitute parent? Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. Under the Alabama regulation, an able-bodied man, married or single, is considered a substitute father of all the children of the applicant mother, because usually this is how it goes, it's very gendered, in three different situations. 1, he lives in the home with the child's natural or adoptive mother for the purposes of cohabitation. Or 2, if he visits the home frequently for the purpose of cohabitating with the child's natural or adoptive mother. Or 3, if he does not frequent the home but cohabitates with the child's natural or adoptive mother elsewhere. Whether the substitute father is actually the father of the children is irrelevant. It is also irrelevant whether he is legally obligated to support the child and whether he does in fact contribute to their support, which is determined simply whether he cohabitates with the child's mother. So here's also my point of contention with this being used as a shaming tactic for Black mothers that are receiving government aid, which again, we've already concluded is it's not a small portion of our community, but in comparison, in today's time period anyway, is under 23%, and in this time period, around 35%. This rule and the rules that were being challenged in their respective states never had anything to do with biological fathers.
No.
Like, I think that's like, hello, is anybody home?
Basically, Mom, you can't have a life,
right?
Because you need assistance. So because you need assistance, don't think that you having sex with some other man and he not gonna come in here and support your kids that have absolutely nothing to do with why he's there.
Right. Because I want to put this in layman's terms. Let me put this in layman's terms, honey. Let's go back to the 3 different ways a man who is not, again, not the biological father and has no obligation to support the children, which means, like, you know how on paternity court nowadays, I watch it on TikTok all the time. Y'all want to follow me, turning notifications off for live. We watch paternity court a lot. You can be someone's legal father or legal guardian without being their biological parent, right? So if you're legally that child's caregiver, you have a legal obligation. Well, Alabama said, I don't give a fuck if you are that child's parent, if you have a legal obligation on paper or not to take care of this child, if you are one, living at this woman's home, two, coming in and out of this woman's home at will, or three, having this woman come to your apartment every weekend, you are them churn's daddy. And if you are able-bodied, whether you are married or have a family of your own, you are that child's legal father to us for the purposes of welfare. And the kids don't get no more aid. Because again, it goes back to the core issue at hand is the state taking aid from the children. This is not even aid for the mother. Yes, the mother gets the money on behalf of the children, but the money is being given based on the status of the children.
Right.
And if you were following along, the children receiving this particular aid were dependent children. Dependent children were needy children who have been deprived of parental support or care by reason of death, continued absence from the home, or physical or mental incapacity of that parent. Continually.
So how can you just
talking about all
preemptively?
We're talking about the children that need the welfare because their parent, one of their parents cannot or is not providing for them.
Right. So I'm confused to why is this
fathers like.
So you're just gonna stick children on a man who literally did not sign up for it.
Right. And I'm like, for me, in my mind, if y'all knew how to read this, right? Thank God for my law degree. But wouldn't the black men that are toting this shaming tactic around actually be against this the most?
Yeah.
You're going to make me have to be responsible financially for a child that's not mine? See?
I would think so.
See? The more you learn, the more. See? Someone commented, just boyfriends. It's not even just boyfriends.
It's just a man that you may have met at the grocery store.
Okay, this your sneaky link. Not even your boyfriend, but your sneaky link is your baby, your baby daddy by proxy. Basically, that's what Alabama said. Alabama said, look, if you knocking down her wall, you got enough time to go to work and support her kids.
And it does not matter if you have your own family.
Listen, let's get into the own family, because you know what? Let's get into the facts of this case, because I think they picked the right class representative. Okay, let's get into this vintage tea, honey. Okay, the sweet tea on the poach with some lemon slices. Okay,
I'm ready.
Rockin' shit.
I'm ready. You know I'm from the South, so I'm ready.
Listen, okay, because this wasn't Alabama now.
Now I'm not from Alabama.
I'm not either, okay? If y'all don't really know me like that, but my both sides of my family, mama and daddy side, from Louisiana. So I'm not gonna talk too harshly about Alabama, but so let's get into the facts of this case, right? Matter of fact, I don't want to actually get into the facts of this case. I'm gonna come back from that. We're gonna come back to that because there was some points in here that I did want to single out that went with the facts of the case, because Alabama was turning the fuck up. Let me find my highlights, or maybe I passed them. Hold on. This is the problem. I'm not gonna bore y'all. Let me go back up here because I want to actually explain to you. Oh, it's up actually. Okay. It's in the facts, so we don't have to go anywhere else. All right. So between June 1964, when Alabama substitute father regulation became effective, and January 1967. Now, I'm not the smartest cookie in the bunch, but that looked like less than 3 years to me.
Yeah.
It looked around like 2.5 years.
Yeah. Simple math.
2 years, 7 months-ish. Right? So for Alabama specifically, this didn't even last a full 4 years. But I want to point that out just so that we're all on the same page. Like, these laws did not last for long. However, they did do some damage to the children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to the children. Let's get into that part, right? So, in this 2.5-year span, the total number of AFDC recipients in the state declined by 20,000 persons, and the number of children recipients by 16,000, or 22%. As applied in this case, the regulation has caused the termination of all AFDC payments to the appellees, Mrs. Sylvester Smith and her 4 minor children. So going back to that conversation we were having about where the fuck did this money go, right?
Right.
So in 2 years and 7 months, they dropped 20,000 people from receiving this aid. So 22%. Where the fuck did that money go? Because the federal government, as we already explained, for welfare, they divvy out money to the states, and the states gives it to the people that need it in their state.
Yep.
So if they created this one regulation, again, because we have to keep all of this in context, this one regulation for this one portion of welfare for dependent children, decrease the people getting it by 22%. Where the fuck did that allocated money go?
In somebody's pockets.
And so, I mean, the Black men that are arguing about welfare and all this could actually be asking these questions, right? You would think that they would want, since they love taking handouts. That was very wrong. Calm down. Wow, that was very. That just jumped out. They love to talk about government corruption and them not getting their coin. The coin went missing.
Yep.
Where did the coin go?
Because 22% of the people that were receiving it are not receiving it anymore.
And it happened quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yes.
Like, for me, that would be my question. So you said no more aid for us. Are you giving it back to the federal government, or?
Oh, no. You should not be concerned with that.
I highly doubt Alabama was making laws for them to be able to give the money back to the government. So where did the money go? I just want to say there's 50 of y'all in here. Oh my gosh, thank y'all for joining me.
Yay!
Don't forget to like and comment, subscribe if you feel like you vibe with the girl. Subscribe, links are in the bio. I'm not the bio girl. I'm not on TikTok. Links are in the description of where else you can keep up with me and where you can keep up with my shit talking, because I does this on a regular basis. But when we on YouTube, that means I'm sharing the screen, which means we're about to be all educational and whatnot. But back to the regularly scheduled programming. I'm trying to figure out where the fuck the money went. I mean, it's long gone by now, but I'm like, where'd the money go?
Don't Alabama got a big school out there? They probably poured it into the sports.
They said roll Tide and rolled up the welfare. We're right up with it. Anyway, let's get back into these facts of this case. We're going to get into Mrs. Smith and what had happened with her and her churn. This is where things get messy. And I want y'all to understand, right? For further context, in order for these 20,000 people, and if you see the discrepancy, there's about 4,000 difference between the persons and the children that were dropped. I'm assuming that's like adults that will be considered legally a dependent.
Right.
So if you're following along at home, right, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, 16,000 children were in the same position. What position was that? They were a dependent child, which goes back to what? One of their parents cannot or is not providing for them. And they had a substitute father. Are y'all catching it? Are y'all catching it?
I got it.
16,000 children that were deemed needy and had a substitute father, which means they mama had a nigga, excuse me, had somebody knocking down her walls or trying to play house with her that wasn't these kids' fathers. Wonder if y'all caught it. Let me know if y'all caught it or not, But back into these facts. Mrs. Smith and her 4 children, ages 14, 12, 11, and 9, reside in Dallas County, Alabama. For several years prior to October 1st, 1966, they had received aid under the AFDC program. By notice dated October 11th, 1966, they were removed from the list of persons eligible to receive such aid. This action was taken by Dallas County welfare authorities pursuant to the substitute father regulation on the ground that a Mr. Williams came to her home on weekends and had sexual relations with her. That's not even the spiciest part. That
don't sound like he's raising them, though. It sounds like he's raising her, if you know what I'm saying.
Raising something, but it wasn't the churn. Listen, this part right here, because this part, following along with the context is very telling. 3 of Mrs. Smith's children have not received parental support or care from their father since their natural father's death in 1955. That goes back to them being eligible as a dependent child. Their father has passed away. Her 4th child's father left home in 1963, and the child has not received the support or care of his father since then. All the children live in the home with their mother and except for the substitute father regulation, are eligible for aid. The family is not receiving any other type of public assistance and has been living since the termination of AFDC payments on Mrs. Smith's salary between $16 and $20 per week, which she earns working from 3:30 a.m. to 12 noon as a cook and waitress. I want y'all to catch all this. I want y'all to catch it.
I like this part.
So I'm gonna slow it down. So the year is 1966. In 1966, she has a 14, 12, 11, and a 9-year-old. Her oldest 3 children lost their father 11 years prior in 1955. Meaning when their father died, she had a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and an infant in 1955. Now, math tells me the difference between 11 and 9 is 3 years. Or is it 2? It's 2. I'm lying. Math tells me the difference between 11 and 9 is 2 years.
I didn't go to school for math.
So, look, I'm a lawyer, okay? I didn't go to math school, all right? But I try sometimes to do simple math. But simple math tells me that the youngest 2 children are 2 years apart, which means she met a man and got pregnant, had a baby within 2 years of her smallest child being there. So she's a mother of 3 small children under the age of 4. Gets with this man, gets pregnant by this man, and this man leaves. What was that? 8 years after her husband dies. When his own child was 5. 5 or 6, around that age. This woman already has her kids on this aid because her husband died and then her baby daddy left and ain't been taking care of the kids. This is already going on, and in walks Mr. Williams. And we're going to get to Mr. Williams in a moment. I say all that to say, all of these stories may not be exactly like Mrs. Smith's story, but all of these stories have in common there are women with children whose fathers aren't taking care of them, and then they have some new man who isn't taking care of their kids, but is cohabitating them to a certain extent. Now, in here, they did have an argument about what continuing means. Is it 3 weeks, 3 days, 6 months? They were all the cases were different. So that was also an issue for the Supreme Court to handle. Like, no, y'all, even if y'all could do this, y'all can't, y'all have to be consistent. But this is the picture we are painting. So then we get to Mr. Williams. And this part, I need to go back because I actually found the district court's opinion. Somebody snitched on Mrs. Smith. But here's probably the reason why she got snitched on. Mr. Williams, the alleged substitute father, the man who the state said you are cohabitating with her, take care of her kids. Mr. Williams, the alleged substitute father of Mrs. Smith's children, has 9 children of his own and lives with his wife and family, all of whom are dependent upon him for support. Mr. Williams is not the father of any of Mrs. Smith's children. He is not legally obligated under Alabama law to support any of Mrs. Smith's children. Further, he is not willing or able to support the Smith children and does not, in fact, support them. His wife is required to work to help support the Williams household. Y'all nignogs using this case to be able to dibble and dabble in someone else's household without taking care of your own household. What the fuck is this about? What the fuck is this about? You have this man who has 9 children and a wife going to a house of a woman with 4 children and no other help on the weekends to knock her fucking walls down while your wife is at home working and taking care of your 9 kids. I need some help with this because it's like, why do they continuously take certain things, don't look into them, don't read them, don't comprehend them, just like with the Moynihan report, and use it as a shaming tactic for Black women? Meanwhile, if you actually look into it, it reflects badly on Black men. I need some help because I'm confusion. I'm sipping water, my bad, y'all. Ari, if you're talking to me, you on mute, girl. But I'm just trying
to... shoot, I was on mute.
Oh.
I was saying that, Mr. Williams, he needed a break from his family, his mind is at home, but his body is on the other side of town. He still loves his wife, but his mind, his whole body is on the other side of town with Miss Smith.
Look. Look. I thought it was gonna be here for longer. Let me turn my camera back on. Maybe y'all can see me. Hey. Look.
Mr. Williams was like, look, I just needed something to do on the weekends. And I told my wife I go bowling with the guys. But I'm knocking down pins somewhere else. That's all I'm saying. But if his wife has to help support his family.
Let's see if I can actually find it, because the case said the welfare office received a anonymous report.
Mrs. Williams.
If y'all want to find the case law, I did pin it. Let me actually go click this. If you go to the King v. Smith link and you click on it, if you go down to, let's see. If you go down where it says affirmed at the very end, it says 277 F Sup 31. That is the decision of the district court from the Middle District of Alabama that the Supreme Court affirmed, because they also said, no, you can't just take these children's money because some woman's getting her walls knocked down.
Right. That doesn't make sense. He also is not supporting these kids. So in theory, they should have the aid.
And Let me see if I could. Hold on, let me make this bigger. Put this on the big screen because Mr. Williams is a mess. Like, so this is where it says she was advised. First of all, they got all people's names up. They got the full names. The Supreme Court was like, I'll give y'all a last name nod. Alabama said, look, you put your whole government name on here.
Right.
She received notice from an agent that she was going to be terminated. Right. And then it gets down to the bottom where it says, while the evidence on this point is conflicting, it reflects with reasonable certainty that Dallas County, Alabama caseworker Ms. Jacqueline Stencil received a report that Willie E. Williams was periodically visiting the home of Sylvester Smith, and that from time to time, Williams and Smith were engaging in sexual activity. Now, I don't know who would know such information as that. Put money on it being the wife, because I too
was the wife.
said if I was at home, they said in here, there was more details in here. There were 8 minor children, so 8 children at home in the house, and he out here knocking people's walls down. So I just if like as a Black man, right? And I get if you're trying to blame Black women for the problems of the Black community, it's kind of like wild to me. So I kind of already know kind of like where your mentality is and kind of how your mind works and how it doesn't work, and your lack of critical thinking skills. But it's like if I was critically and actually invested into researching the things that I perpetuate, I'd be like, I don't think this is going to be City Boys up 1,000.
Nope.
I don't think this is City Boys up 1,000. I think this is City Boys down 2 million.
Well, when you're dealing with the product of the No Child Left Behind Act,
but see, they can't even use that though. That's the thing about it, right? Because we be deep in the TikTok trenches, right?
Right.
So I'll say about like 40% of the men that we come across on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, the manosphere in general, right? About like 40% of them they should take some medication for this, are over the age of 40. Which means the legislation passed in the 90s really wouldn't affect them.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And also, if I can find the video, you know that one video where it's like from the 60s and he's like, you have to be learned to take that. What is that clip from? We watched it before. From like 68 or some shit, talking about you have to be a student of us or something. Let me go find that video. We can watch it together because that was back in the 60s with some grown ass men in the 60s, which means they was born in the 40s.
Right.
Saying the same fucking thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about when the Black woman was like, well, what can we do? Like, how are y'all going to, help the brothers that y'all feel are weak?
And he was like,
you talked all over that.
The women or some shit like that. What was that called? We actually did a whole live about that. Well, I'll find that. Because it's in here. I can't think of, let me look at the person. I know what channel it was on. So at least I can do it like that. So it's like I can't even give them that. Now for these ones that are my age, around my age, you really shouldn't be saying anything about whoever took them out the home. I think if any Black man was out the home in the 80s and 90s, it was probably crack. So but it's funny how we're perpetuating these talking points without ever stopping to see or notice if they're correct. We don't, even if they are correct, if they're still relevant. Because even if this took place in the way in which, why is this not showing up on here? That's annoying.
Well, we know why. A lot of people like to use their own experiences and call them facts versus actually going on to a database, typing in stuff, and then finding tons of articles and stats that could help support their arguments. They don't know that, or they choose not to know that.
And I think it ties into the point that I made last week. We were talking about pimping, right? How things can like change form, but be the same. And I feel like, in addition to us not being great at identifying things that change, maybe label or look, in addition to that, like we don't like to fact check. Facts are not friendly around these parts. Facts are harmful. And I'm trying to figure out why, because I thought I grew up, all facts are friendly. But I guess
to you as a person of a certain class, to you as a person that has a certain career that requires you to use facts. But that would be the same for me.
I can't even give them that. See, you're trying to give them leeway. I'm like, I could go.
No, I'm just trying not to get, us banned or anything. I'm just trying to.
But it's just like, at what point do we do better? At what point do we say, like, hey, I know we believe these things for so long, it seems like truth, but it's not. I see that it's caused drama and havoc. And what is going on with the camera, honey?
When you lean back to my jokes, that's what happened when you lean back.
Actually, try to be on camera, but it's concerning to me, right? And I'm not of the belief that everyone has to be as educated as me, right? I can go down my educational resume and all that kind of shit. It will probably be pointless at this point. But you don't have to have degrees or be valedictorian to understand basic ideas, or to research on Google, which has been around for 20 plus years, simple facts. And why can't I find this video? Because I know for a fact we done watched this a few times.
Yeah.
Let me, child, because I know for a fact I even posted it on the TikTok. Come on now.
Oh, you're never gonna find it on your TikTok.
That would have been the perfect illustration of, we continuously just hear these lies and just take them and run with them, even when they're not true, even back then they were incorrect and was based on the triggered feelings of a man that felt inadequate. Because this man in the video was basically trying to argue this woman down of, you shouldn't want to aspire to be in the middle class, which, first of all, the middle class, like, come on now, I'm not even asking for the upper class.
Right. Middle is, we making it. Like, we ain't doing a whole lot of great, but we're doing great enough.
Yeah. And then you're going to argue me down to not take that and take less because that's what you can afford me. Which goes back to this whole thing of, when you're watching these videos, it's like, are you saying that welfare came before the need for it? Because they needed the welfare because the men were failing to provide adequately. And again, this is only for less than 35% of the Black population in that time period. So even if all these things were true, it only really applied to 1/3 of us. Where's the other 2/3 at? I'm like, somebody gotta help me. Somebody help. Send help. help me.
Someone said in the chat that a lot of these issues can be solved with family planning and contraception.
And it's like, when it comes to the issues of absentee fathers, children growing up in poverty because they're absentee fathers, yes, I agree with that, right? But there are so many other issues that have nothing to do, that this affects, that have nothing to do with the person's immediate family, right? Because if you don't have money to raise your family, you don't have money to invest in the community.
No.
And if you're absent from your family, you're absent from the community, because I highly doubt absentee fathers are volunteering at soup kitchens and all that.
Oh, girl, you reaching.
No. I would find it very, very hard to believe that a person who is refusing to take care of their children, girl, what is this? Here. I think I found it. Let's see.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, I highly doubt I highly doubt people that are like not present for their kids.
He's the football coach. He's the football coach at the local high school. Like, no.
And it's like, look, no shade to the football coaches. My wife plays football. She's a basketball coach. So no shade to the sports coaches.
Right, none.
Ooh. Echo. No shade to sports coaches. But where are the English tutors at? Where are the math tutors? Where are the history tutors? Where is the financial literacy coaches at? Because again, it goes back to, it looks like for us, we've made a lot of progress in decreasing the level of people in poverty in the Black community. As of 2016, it was 22%. It's too high, but you know what? We're here. It's a decrease of about like what, 14%?
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves even more people of means and opportunity. Where is the 67% of people at right now?
They're too busy worrying about finding out how many bodies you have.
77%, 78%, 78%. Like, it baffles my mind, right? And I think it's probably making sense to me that we do focus on our impoverished portion of the Black community, because that gives us the opportunity to be hands off.
Right.
If we say, oh, we're all in poverty to a extent that we can't do anything for ourselves, then what can we do? But it's like 22%, which means there are less people on assistance.
Mm-hmm.
But that still leaves 78% of us that are not in poverty.
Right. I'm doing my part, Coco.
We can. So I done hit the chat. It goes back to like, so because the reason why welfare, they're saying, oh, welfare took us out the home, Black woman sold us out for a government check. It's all a ploy for them not to take responsibility for their actions then and now.
And I want y'all to understand that they're not getting a hell of a lot of money from the government. So they're still also working on top of getting like maybe a couple $100. Like,
I
look,
mean,
the government ain't taking care of
Mrs.
everything.
Smith was getting government aid for her 4 kids and still worked overnights.
Right.
In the 60s. So it's also like, why, first of all, why are we in one foul stroke demonizing poor people for being poor?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I mean, if you're receiving welfare, you qualify for welfare.
Right. It's not as if you were like, oh, let me decide to be poor so I could get a check. That's not really going to cover a lot in my household.
Right. And so one, it's like we're taking this portion of our community and making it the representative for us, and then don't put any equity or sweat equity into building them out of poverty and building us into even a better class of economics. Or how about we could just say fuck not mean blurry again. We could really just say fuck economics altogether, because at the end of the day, if you think that capitalism and beating capitalism is the way out for us as a people, you're not with the shits either. Only focusing on economics and capitalism is not going to get us where we need to go. This is the other thing. It's like, do y'all hate white people or not? Because in one breath, it's their fault we here, but in another breath, we got to do what they do to get out of what is it? What is it? And then y'all are utilizing these incorrect fucking facts to demonize the women taking care of your kids when you was absent. Because again, you don't get welfare if you don't qualify for welfare. And most of them qualify for welfare because they had an absentee fucking parent that refused to take care of the kids with them.
Because he didn't have any taxable income.
No. We're gonna watch this video. Let me go ahead and mute myself over here and turn on my speakers and shit. Let's watch this first part of this clip because it's gonna illustrate they've been saying the same fucking thing since they fucking great granddaddy. And it's like then and now. They wasn't talking about the entirety of the community, so what the fuck? Okay.
Not new for many African Americans, but the resurgence of black awareness and pride, black men and women face new problems, not only in relation to white society, but to each other in a black society. Recently, there has been a stream of articles on this subject, and the Chicago Daily Defender, America's largest black newspaper, began a series some weeks ago on the emergence of the new black woman. Betty Washington, reporter for the paper, surveyed the Chicago scene to report on how black men and women believe the revolution in racial pride will affect them and their families, before the sociologists and experts tell us how we are supposed to react.
As a reporter for the Chicago Daily Defender, and as a black woman married to a black man, I've become deeply aware of the effects of this new black revolution on the relationship between black man and black woman. I see it among my own friends, and I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned,
I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men. No. But our black women, who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male, has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay. Well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as a leader.
White America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're going to get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be aspiring to have all those things that's a part of the great middle class white American society, and because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
For these women, the men are there.
I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men. No. But our black women, who has been put in this aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male, has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay. Well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as a leader.
White America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're gonna get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be aspiring to have all those things that's a part of the great middle class white American society, and because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
For these women, the men are.
Now look.
Girl.
Now look.
That sound like Me and Alive. Like, what you want me to do?
It literally looks like if you just put their four faces in a box, it's TikTok. It's TikTok. This was recorded in 1968.
I asked a similar question to the lady in the glasses. Just what, like 2 weeks ago? Like 2 weeks ago. If you want to be the leader, I'm willing to let you be the leader. What are we doing? See, we got to reprogram women because that's not the no, what are we doing?
And it's like, so what's the rhetoric? Either because it's like, again, it's around the poverty, right? Either you're gonna step up and provide more than I can get on public assistance, or you're not. So I don't understand. Are they, like, they're fighting? I don't know what are they fighting against? Themselves, their own demons, probably. But it's like you're wanting her to lower her standards, which financially is like, why would I want to be in poverty with children?
Right.
Why would I want to voluntarily sign up to have children and not be able to take care of them? And you're going to get tired of not being able to provide and get upset, go for a gallon of milk and never come the fuck back.
Mm-hmm.
But you're begging me to remain in poverty because that's what you believe you can do.
It's just like
watching what you're capable of doing.
It's just like when we watch Good Times. I never really particularly cared for Good Times because I'm like, hell, why every week we still in the projects? Like, Florida could get a job, and JJ could get a job, and we can all figure out.
He wants, again, right? Because I also want to point out the fact that we may have to dissect this video, because I feel like Black men and Black women are fighting for the same thing without understanding they're fighting for the same thing. They're fighting for patriarchal roles and gender roles.
Right.
It's just Black women are expecting a provider and protector, and Black men are fighting against providing and protecting, but they want the patriarchal outcomes and accolades.
Right.
So we want to discuss that, because I feel like I'm too progressive for either side, because we need to have a conversation about dismantling gender and this masculine femininity thing altogether, and us just maintaining and upholding a white supremacist patriarchy within our own community is not going to work for us. It's just not. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't want what either one of them want. But I find it interesting that the arguments, even in 2023, are exactly the fucking same. And nothing has changed.
At all.
Other than Black women saying, okay, well, I have to go work. Let me work. I have to get an education, get a better job. Let me go get an education. Oh, I need to save money and buy houses. Now they have more things to complain about that we're doing and leaving them in the dust. But it's just like, again, when are we going to be fucking for real? When are we going to have real conversations in their real proper context, using facts and accurate history and not just a whole bunch of fucking feelings? like, because we could be talking about, okay, so if we're going to expand this to a community conversation and let it not just be an interpersonal romantic relationship discussion, which it always crumbles down to, especially if you're on TikTok. Oh my fucking God.
Yes.
But what are the ramifications of people growing up in poverty? What is the ramifications of a child growing up in poverty? How do they go on to affect themselves, their family, and society? Because an absentee father reaches beyond the household.
Mm-hmm.
Poverty reaches beyond the household. Poverty reaches beyond your relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have to consider that there are people that grew up in poverty with all that mentality, all that programming, that grow up to make more money, move classes, and bring all that baggage for other people to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're instilling that in the kids that they bring up and raise. So this is not just a purely economic situation. And we're not even discussing it in its proper context where we're getting the entire picture, not bits and pieces that are inaccurate.
Exactly.
Because, like, what the fuck? You think that someone living in poverty in 65 has no effect on them today and the community today? We haven't even, like, we've been doing these conversations for what? Since like August, September? No, I took 5 months off. So, let's not count that part. But we've been doing it for a while. I've been on TikTok talking about all these issues for a while. I haven't even gotten to the crack epidemic.
No.
We haven't even gotten out of the 70s. Like, like, and me, I pick things because they mirror today. So I talk about them in that dual time period thing, right? We haven't even gotten to the drugs and the gang violence and all that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we're still having these conversations today, and our children are still growing up in confusion, in shame, in everything else.
No attachment with their families because their mama and their daddy is so busy fighting each other that they're not loving on the child. Like
we could be using these conversations to like figure out how to do better for our children. I say our children because I am of childbearing age. I ain't got no kids, but and it's sad that I'm more concerned about the children than y'all with kids are. But it's okay. But I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of especially Black women believing and perpetuating and trying to contort themselves to combat lies. It's a lie. Now, you can give them whatever excuse that you would like, but at the end of the day, they were not and are not providing for themselves, their families, and the community. They're just not.
They're not.
And going back to 66, 68, 70, and coming back to now, and hearing this man talk about how his daddy and his daddy's daddy was putting up with the same bullshit. And even last week we went back to the plantation and then off the plantation about pimping. They're not going to do better. They're not.
Mm-mm.
They're not going to do it. They do not want to. They have zero interest. They're not going to do it.
As I always say.
All that for the past hour and a half, 2 hours to say to Black women. We have been picking up the slack, but we've been doing it begrudgingly and hoping and wishing and praying they would help us. Please help, please. We've been doing all these things for you. We're ride or dies. Help us. They're not. They're not. They're not coming to help us.
They don't want the help.
They don't want to. Dismantle the lies in your brain so that you can clear all that cognitive dissonance fog that's in your fucking brain. See them for who they are and do as I do and treat them like I treat white people, okay? This is how I treat white people. I don't go down the street mad at white folk, but I know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I know what their conditioning is. I know what their default is. Like I said earlier, my family is both sides from Louisiana. I'm the first person on my mother and father's side to be born out of Louisiana for as far back as we can even remember. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, liberal land, the land of microaggressions. Okay? I know Southern whites. I know Northern and Western whites. I know who they are. I peep them. So I know going into interactions how to be. Not on no respectability politics shit, but to keep my peepers peeping. Until and unless they show me they are different than that conditioning. They have to earn my attention, period. They have to earn my respect and my trust through their actions. And even when they do earn that from me, I still know their conditioning. I still understand that no matter how hard they try, no matter how anti-racist they are, they may have a moment. And at that moment, we're going to reevaluate the situation. Treat black men
case by case. Case
by case basis. When I said I'm divested socially and otherwise, and they all got mad at me and saying, oh my God, and they try to make me go viral over some fuck shit and realize they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. We'll go over that some other time. They tried it, but they failed. As I told them they would before they even tried it. I said, they're failing, and they got mad at me. But understand who black men are as a group. And this is not just for relationships. I need y'all motherfuckers. And when I say y'all motherfuckers, I'm talking to black women right now. I need you, I will call you something different. I'm not gonna do that right now. I need you motherfuckers to understand. You deal with these people on more than just a relationship basis. As we see with the femicide rates and these incidences, them popping off in violence, sometimes has nothing to do if they actually even know who the fuck you are. You could look at them the wrong way and they pop off. You could say the wrong thing, they pop off. You can reject them, they pop off. And that's at work, at the gas station, at the library, schoolhouse, in traffic. So I need you to understand something. Understand how they operate, right? You don't need to go around having a steak attitude or anything like that, or cussing them out just as a precursor. That's not necessary. But understand what their conditioning is. Do you really think that thought process got from 68 to 2023 just by happenstance? That had to be passed down somehow. Peep who they are. Make them prove to you they are worth your time and attention and efforts. And when I say efforts, I don't mean fucking marching in the streets for these men or protecting them. Men do not need protection from women in a global patriarchy. Stop letting them bamboozle and bully you into being a shield for them. Let them hold their own fucking nuts.
And that's on period.
Keep who they are and who they have been. And who they'll continue to be, absent them making a choice for themselves to be different. The reason why I said fuck it is because I realized, because I've been healing on a personal level for a long time. Thanks, mom and dad. Thanks for all the trauma. But I realized, right, in my life coaching endeavors and therapy that you cannot control anybody.
Nope.
Nothing you do or say can make anybody do or say anything. Even if they use what you say as an excuse or repair it to you what you did to make them do that, you didn't make them do anything. If someone is going to change, they have to come to that conclusion for themselves. And I can't make these niggas change.
At all.
I don't have that power, and neither do you.
And it's insanity.
It's insane that you.
It is insanity.
I can just speak line to them. If I just encourage him, he's gonna do great. If I just fuck him, he's gonna do great. No, he's not. If he chooses to, he's gonna do great. If he chooses to, he's gonna treat us like human beings. If he chooses to, he will take care of his kids. If he chooses to, he will invest in community. If he chooses to, he will rectify his problematic ass behavior. Nothing about that has anything to do with you.
So stop getting on lives with them and getting in a panel discussion that they continue to have day after day after day for hours on end, talking about nothing, because you are going to drive yourself insane. Because that's what the definition of insanity is. Doing the same thing over and over and over and thinking you're going to get a different result.
These men, especially because, you know, me and Ari from the TikToks, okay, we coming over here to be a little hood in y'all YouTube streets. These men have enough cognitive function to have a phone, have it be hooked up to Wi-Fi or phone service, download TikTok, create an account, get enough followers to have the ability to go live, start a live and start talking. If they have that much cognitive ability, they can get their ass on Google and simply type in welfare, Black community, and everything they need will come up. Now, of course, they have to be able to interpret those things. We'll get, that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah.
But we have to get out as Black women out of this mind frame that they are so infantile that they cannot do or think for themselves. Even if that were the case, that is not your responsibility to make sure that man can be able to read and comprehend. That was that man's parents' job, their teacher's job, and his job to do the work to learn and do his homework. It is not your job to make sure they understand the world around them. Because when you think about it, we're sitting here having these low-ass vibrational conversations about submission and wees and wigs and inaccurate conversations about welfare and all this kind of shit. Like, just to be fucking for real. Even if, like, it's not our job. It's not our job to make sure that they get it. Don't they constantly complain about being emasculated? I'm sorry, but isn't doing everything for them and spoon feeding them things emasculating?
I thought that was the definition.
I need y'all motherfuckers. I'm gonna start calling y'all different names. I'm gonna get some names for y'all because I need y'all to hear me. Okay, I'm a tough love girly, so I'm gonna cuss y'all out so that y'all can get it. I don't want to call y'all bitches and hoes though, because that's kind of rude. Heifer, if you don't stop, like how many stories from my grandmothers, great grandmothers, aunties, cousins, co-workers, college friends, how many women need to explain to y'all who they are before you fucking believe who the fuck they are? Not saying you have to give all of them.
Did you read? Are you reading the chat?
What happened?
Somebody told a joke and was like, "I'm not supposed to do his application. How will he work?"
Stop doing applications for their ass. If they can't read or write at their big age, it's not your problem. It's really not your problem. Like, if this man
it's sad because I know people that have done that.
Men do not get better by you doing everything for them. If we continue to do things for them and continue to shield them from their consequences and continue to make excuses for them, we're already on the trajectory to be outpacing them socioeconomically.
Yeah.
But guess what, bitch? The globe is not going to be a global matriarchy tomorrow. In order to do that, you have to dismantle the imperial systems of the Western world, which I have to remind people is Western Europe, because people don't understand what that really means. They think it's like the Western Hemisphere. No. In order for us to be a matriarchy globally, we have a lot of work to do, centuries worth of work to do. But for the here and now, stop holding grown-ass man's nuts for them. If they're going to survive and thrive, let it be on their shoulders. If they're going to fail and flame out, let that be on their shoulders.
It's called survival of the fittest.
No matter what we do, no matter how much we contort ourselves to be something that we're not, no matter how many European beauty standards we try to subscribe to, no matter how much we try to minimize the greatness that we are, no matter what the fuck Black women do, it's not ever going to be enough for them to change for the better. And I really wish y'all hoes would stop fucking thinking that. I really wish y'all would. It would save us a lot of energy, save us a lot of trauma, strife, case by case basis. Okay? You got something worse for the girlies, because I'm gonna bang this gavel and we're gonna be the fuck up out of here.
Listen, I mean, I'm ready.
Okay? Stop thinking that anything you can do, be, or say is gonna make a grown-ass man do something or not do something. Let that be the emotional intelligence lesson of the day. The only person you can control is yourself. Notice how the period stopped after yourself. Look, join me next week for yet another conversation with Coco. Next week is going to be a good one. We are going to have a realistic conversation about what it means to have realistic boundaries, realistic expectations, and realistic standards. And heavy on the realistic. And don't think that means lowering standards, because that actually means raising them. Because our standards as a community, as Black women, the standard bar is hell. In hell. It's in hell.
All the way.
Like I said, stop thinking that dumb shit. But for now, I'm gonna go. Thank y'all for joining me. I believe I'm supposed to have a Thursday conversation on my Patreon, but I may have to figure that out. But all my links to how to keep up with me are in the description box. The links for the court case, as well as oral arguments, if you feel that spicy, is there. As you know, the encyclopedia link is there. If y'all want to holler at me on a daily basis, y'all know I'll be over on TikTok. Okay, I'll be in the trenches for real. But shout out to Themis for sharing this live. I appreciate it. I enjoy all y'all for being here.
Yay!
So y'all know I'll be nervous to be over here. It's like actually like I have to have some sense coming over here, because over on TikTok, bitch, I be in my bonnet. Okay, I'll put some edge control on today. Okay, but like I said, I be here, there, and everywhere. Follow me and case closed. Bye. Oh, hold on now. Let me not end the meeting, y'all.